Right then, this is my Honda 1981 CM250T, and apart from it being green, this bike never ceases to amaze me. I bought it lots of years ago to go to the train station on in the morning, just as a commuter bike, and at the time it was a couple £100. It was next to nothing. And I spent a little bit of money on it. It had a different exhaust system on, so those cans are actually off a 250 Rebel, but they're identical in shape and mounting points to the ones you can no longer get for a CM250. So I swapped all them out and some other bits and bobs, you know, just to get it up and running. I used it for about 5 or 6 years. It never let me down once, and then I parked it up for the best part of 10 years. Got it out a couple of years ago, gave it a bit of a wash, put a new battery in it, and with 10-year-old petrol it started on the first turn, and it always does so. So it's currently got one little problem, which we're gonna see if we can sort out today. You won't be able to see it, but it's got 2 carbs, and in between there is a fuel transfer tube. Now, I did have on the other side what I thought was a float bowl leak, so I actually bought a kit for it, replaced the float bowl gasket last year, put it all back together, and the fuel leak is still there, and I traced it up, and you can actually see it when you turn the fuel on. It's leaking out on that fuel transfer tube. So we're gonna strip that out today. Simple enough job. You take the seat off, take the tank off, 2 minutes, get rid of these side panels just to give you a bit more room to work, loosen up these. Actually, what I do is I just take these little 8mm bolts out here and take this whole thing off. You have to be careful, there's an O-ring behind this. There's an airbox back here with another one of these connecting it on. And it can be a bit of a struggle trying to wrestle it out of there. So top tip, which I'll show you in a minute, is we just take this top engine mounting completely off, and it gives you so much more room to work. Doesn't affect the bike at all. It's again just a few more nuts and bolts to undo, and it makes the job a lot easier. So let's strip the periphery items off first, and we'll come back as we get into taking those off. Right then, so they're off, and we've also taken off the engine hanger. It's just 2 bolts there, and then a long one through the middle. Goes in just here, look. Anyway, they're off. We've also taken the 8mm bolts out of here, and we've loosened off these clips. Now, these are a little bit on the hard side. They're by no means gone. Look, I can still move them, but they are a little bit hard, so we're going to have to be a little bit careful as we lever these off. We need to get those off. Now, what can happen is that when you do that, these come disconnected from the airbox, and it becomes a real pain to try and get them back in. So we'll try not to do that, but they may well do. We're going to pull, because of these cables, we're going to pull these carbs out this side of the bike, and what we're looking to get to is that silver tube down there. That's what's leaking. So in order to do that, we just have to undo this bracket that holds the 2 carbs together. That'll allow the carbs to come apart, and we just pull that tube out, change the O-rings, but I'll show you that as we get to it. And there we go, we just pulled them out, and they're just resting now, just hanging from the cables, to be honest. And this is the tube we need to get to. These carbs are held together by a bracket down there and a bracket up here, so we'll get those off next. That will allow us to split the carbs. There's a linkage there that joins them together, but that literally, you don't have to undo that, not that I can remember anyway. I'll have a look when we take it apart. And this one just pulls out. So again, there's springs and stuff you need to be aware of, so just, you know, take your time as you're taking it apart, make sure you don't lose these bits and you know where they go. But there's nothing really much to these carbs. They're very simple, and I suspect it's this O-ring just here that's leaking, but we'll see when we pull it out. I mean, look how loose that is. I can spin it with my finger. So yeah, there's not much left of any O-rings in there, I suspect. We'll see. Let's get it out and we'll show you that. Okay, and here's our problem piece. Those O-rings are pretty hard and square, so I'm going to pull them off and replace them. That's the carb split. There was a spring I'd forgotten about that needs to go back in, and also I think this is going to be a pain when we come to put it back together. Let me just find it. Yes, that little adjuster screw there is spring loaded. Now I didn't undo it because that's how you balance the carbs, so I'm hoping I can slide that back in without too much fuss, but let's see. Let me get these O-rings changed first. Okay, all buttoned back up. Got everything back in. It was a little bit more tricky than I thought. Reassembling that balancing screw with all the springs and washers, yeah, I gave up on that and just took it apart and then just re-bench set the carbs. So might need to balance them. Dead easy to do on this. There's one of the balancing ports and the other's on the other side just there. Where my finger is. So you just take them out, chuck your carb balancer in there, and away you go. And then it's just that one screw, which, I mean, they're never easy to get to, but you got all the cables on that side, so obviously you go from this side, but you know, there it is back there with the nut and the screw just there on the end of my finger. So that's what you've got to get to try and adjust them. And the other thing is, there's obviously I didn't take this boot off, I undid the 8mm bolts, and behind this there's an O-ring, and that's what I found inside one of them, so I've replaced both of those. So hopefully that will get rid of another little air leak I didn't even know I'd got. So just got the tank and bits and bobs to put back on it. I'll do that now, and then we'll fire her up and see how we've done. If it'll fire up, battery could be flat. Okay, so all back together, fuel on, choke on, ignition on, and start. Just in time for the rain, so I'm going to sign off and put this thing away. So just timed that nicely, but yeah, she's up and running again. Let's see if we've got any fuel leaks. Not seeing anything, that's pretty good. Not seeing anything dripping down at all. It was cleaning out before, so nothing. Right then, all buttoned up and back together. So I think we will go ahead and balance them carbs. Next time we get a nice day, we'll do that. Doesn't take long. Alright, thanks guys.